regular meeting of the Pitman Board of Education was advertised in the South Jersey Times, posted at Borough Hall, a copy thereof delivered to all Pitman schools to be posted and posted on the district's website. Further notice was posted and filed as required by law, stating the board would meet in closed session at 7 p.m. in the Pitman High School Media Center. The President shall entertain any objections with supporting reasons to the conduct of this meeting on the grounds that it violates the Open Public Meeting Act. Seeing none, good evening and welcome to this evening's Board of Education meeting. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Miles, will you please call roll?
Mrs. Bolton.
Here.
Mrs. Farrell.
Here.
Mrs. Higby-Iono.
Here.
Mr. Grossman.
Present.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Mrs. Papalardo.
Here.
Mrs. Pope.
Here.
We have a quorum 7-0.
Thank you. There's nothing against our presentation. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wiles and Dr. Preston. Okay. Are you guys?
We can go through,
Oh, no, you guys want to
actually,
do it?
Yeah, we can go right after.
Oh,
We'll be right in the finance section.
That's all right.
Got it.
When we
I
go to
see
move
it.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good. Sorry about that.
No, that's my fault. Okay. Public comment. The Pitman Public School Board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. This is the first of two public comments we will have tonight. The first public hearing is on agenda items only. This is a public comment and not a dialogue between the board and the public. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and it is your opportunity to comment or ask questions. In accordance with board policy number 0167, we ask that you state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. If you recognize to speak, please stand at the podium located to my right and speak clearly into the microphone. Seeing no one, that will take us to correspondence. Mr. Miles, do we have any correspondence?
We have no correspondence.
Okay, thank you. I will now move to accept a motion for the minutes of the Pitman Board of Education as held on the dates listed below are approved as printing and reading dispensed with. May I have a second?
Second, Bigby.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections?
I abstain.
And any,
Abstention.
Mhm.
That's noted.
no others? Okay. All right, President's report. The board wants to thank Mrs. Nichols and Mr. Finley, the student council, student members and the staff for the invitation to this year's staff appreciation dinner. The board will be wearing sneakers next year so that we do not come in second place at the scavenger hunt. I'm not making any accusations, but I would like to see a copy of the rules. And we may place a board member on a select team next year to monitor said team as they progress through the building. So that we can assure. Pardon?
They're never gonna let you beat them. We're coming for her next year.
I don't know, I saw Melissa
training. Let's
running,
start
Mrs.
training
Farrell
now.
was out in front. I have faith. I have a lot of faith. And we also want to sincerely appreciate the staff members who drew the short straw and had to be on our team with us, which is hyper competitive. On March 25th, Dr. Preston, Mr. Miles, Mr. Caltibiano, Mrs. Higby-Iono, and I were able to attend the Assembly budget hearing. You can find a copy of that on NJ Ledge website. I believe the district also posted it. Mr. Miles and I were able to provide testimony to the Assembly regarding this year's fiscal year 26 proposed budget. On the 26th, Dr. Preston, Mr. Caltibiano, Mrs. Higby-Iono, and I were able to go to Newark to NJIT for the Senate hearing. Dr. Preston and I were able to provide testimony as well. After the hearing, we met with Senator Bertucelli. As you know, he's our Legislative District 3 representative. He's been a vocal supporter of our schools. We certainly know that we have our work cut out for us, particularly next year, in light of how this year's funding formula was calculated. There's a couple different pending legislative actions that I wanted to discuss. We discussed it on April 23rd. I attended the New Jersey School Board Association Finance Committee meeting. I'm a member of that committee for the NJSBA. Senator Gopal's legislative action 3917, which would codify some of the things that we saw this year in how the funding formula was calculated. Some things were removed, like for example, the tax cap relief, as they're calling it, was one of the things that they had initially put in the bill that they've subsequently removed. The explanation for why it was removed is that the full assembly is up for re-election this year, and it was not advantageous to be advocating for property taxes to go up. They're pretty transparent in the reasoning on that. It talked about extraordinary special education funding, something that we've talked a lot about, and it would have attempted initially to have codified a fully funded rollout. But already within statute, the special education extraordinary aid funding is required to be funded at 100%. It simply isn't. So codifying it wouldn't add any further teeth since it already exists in statute. So there's no real purpose in making a rollout like that. There's yet again a conversation regarding hold harmless aid, kind of what we experienced as an S2 district, where we faced like a rolled in reduction of our state funding. This hold harmless aid would be similar to what we saw this year with 3% and 6% caps on gains and losses in certain categories of aid, which would create less volatility in the school funding formula as we've seen it play out in previous years. The 3-year average, while was something that we had previously advocated for, is really not helpful because if they continue to change the multiplier, it doesn't really impact us. So to give members of the public something that we've kind of commonly discussed, a reference point to that. This year, the multipliers helped increase the local fair share of what the state allocates the local taxpayers of Gloucester County's property taxes as it pertains to school taxes should be increased by $91 million in 1 year, which is pretty astronomical for a county of our size. And that's what the funding formula increased our local fair shares across the county. So that's something that we talked a lot about. That works out to about $300 for every man, woman, and child in Gloucester County. And that's above and beyond. Gloucester County is one of the highest levels of fidelity as it pertains to raising their local taxes. We do a nice job across the board in our school districts of meeting our expected contribution from our local taxpayers. So this is just kind of an area of concern that we continue to look at. An item that I did want to address that we talked about was this, what they're calling tax cap relief, which would have allowed Pitman, for example, to go up about $500,000 above and beyond what we're already needing to utilize an increase for property taxes. The state incentivized that with about a $20 million pot of money to encourage districts to raise closer to the local fair share. We as a board feel like our community has done a fantastic job of supporting our schools, and just recently with an outstanding turnout at our referendum vote and how they have continued to demonstrate their willingness to fiscally support what our district needs. And so when we're looking at that $20 million pot, they have anticipated that if all the districts who are applicable for that program would apply, the state would need more than $100 million. So it's likely to be prorated. So in our scenario, that property tax relief would have yielded about $23,000 had the state fully funded that pot of money, though it's unlikely they will, because we've seen some big numbers coming out of other districts. So
Hardly a match.
yeah, hardly a match. Probably about $5,000, but we would have of state aid, one-time state aid, but we would have further burdened our families by about $100 a household.
Right.
So that wasn't something that our board was even willing to consider. We think that the bigger area of conversation needs to be focused on legislative advocacy as it pertains to local fair share. The next item I want to bring to everyone's attention is the delegate assemblies. Mrs. Bolton is attending in place of Mr. Grossman. I'll be attending as well. You also have a virtual attendance option. It is one of the criteria for several of the different classifications for NJSBA certifications is attendance at the delegate assembly, so you can listen in virtually and receive the same level of attendance. I think it's very interesting. Mr. Grossman has served in this capacity for what, 2 years, Mr. Grossman? As our delegate representative. His oldest son is graduating with his master's degree, so congratulations to Alex. So Mrs. Bolton is filling in as our alternate, but it is something I think is really interesting. It tells you some of the bigger talking points as it pertains to the NJSBA.
When is it?
It's May, what day?
10th.
10th.
May 10th. Thank you.
It's a Saturday
That
morning.
Saturday.
And another item that I want to bring to everyone's attention, on the 5th I'll be attending the county leadership dinner in Trenton for the NJSBA, but on the 6th we have the Gloucester and Camden County NJSBA dinner. I'd like to know who else would like to attend. I know
I'm registered.
you're all
can't.
registered.
Mabel has
You guys, you two
chorus
cannot?
concert.
I know, of course, concert, I know. If it weren't county leadership voting, it's okay because it's one per district.
Oh, okay.
So we just need one vote. But if it weren't county leadership, I know I'm gonna have to.
Do I have to be my name? I'm getting my new board. I don't. Do I have to
Oh,
be-
new board certification?
Yeah.
Oh good job. That's
Well,
great.
yeah, but I won't
But
be
you won't
there.
be there. We need like, what are they called? The like fatheads on a stick?
Yeah,
Of
bring my
all the board
picture.
members, we can put this in
That
photo.
could happen.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
I know Mrs. Papillard is being recognized, Mr. Gross is being recognized, I think I'm being recognized for various levels of certification. We'll hold a sign up. if
All
you
right,
want.
there you go.
Is that good?
Mhm.
Mrs. Bolton, are you able to attend on the 6th?
Possibly.
Possibly.
I'm still.
Game time decision.
Game time decision?
It's-
Yeah.
You like game time decisions.
I know, that's
It
how
gives
I
me
roll.
hives.
No, it's prom next week, so I'm
that's exciting.
You're
really
booked.
busy.
Yeah.
And the spring dance, so I got a lot of clients. So
I,
we shall see.
as somebody who's helping add to that, I
We
understand.
shall see.
Okay, so if the rest of us want to carpool, I know, Mr. Grossman, you typically meet us there, but we can certainly do so. And then the last item that I want to put on everyone's radar is that we need to discuss availability at the next board meeting for members to come early, in which case we would need to adjust our meeting notification to arrive early to work on the CSA review process. We are very belated this year on that. I
That's
apologize.
It's okay.
It's got to be a good sign.
Yeah, I
right?
would
Yeah,
hope I
100%.
could perhaps, yeah.
No, it's,
It could be
it's great.
bad, though,
No,
too.
never, never.
Yeah.
People never wait to say bad
Yeah.
things, in my experience. All right, so who has availability prior to the meeting next month? Mr. Grossman, I know that for you,
How much
Fine.
earlier?
I think Mrs. Pappalardo and I would probably, if the board's comfortable with it, work in committee in advance to do some of the pre-work, but we would send out your individual board documents. Dr. Preston fills out his, you all fill out yours, we kind of compile them together and review it and create one cohesive document. So if we all can agree, it's a short turnaround time to complete that in a timely fashion in advance of that meeting. I'd say 45 minutes should be sufficient.
So 6:15?
Well, no, because it would, oh, yeah, so 6:15, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
When,
6:15
what
is
day
fine.
would?
So it'd be prior to our May meeting.
So May
Oh,
21st,
okay.
we're doing 6:15 instead of 7.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
So we would meet, open the meeting at 6:15. Can we make it 6 o'clock, actually?
Yep,
Is 6 o'clock
absolutely.
still okay? Okay, let's make it 6 o'clock, and then we'll immediately go into executive session.
Are you bringing dinner, 6 o'clock, really?
Are we bringing dinner? I heard Ms. Bolton's bringing dinner.
I'll be home eating dinner.
Oh, I was thinking
You
I got
have to make us dinner since
conflicted.
you get out.
Yeah, she should make us dinner.
I would agree. Between her and her sister.
I eat at
somebody
5
should be
o'clock.
making
I'm
dinner.
good with a Chick-fil-A platter, you know what I mean? Just get,
Yeah.
have Chick-fil-A catered in.
You're the
We
reason
sent you an
she's not.
email
Right,
with
you're
the
both of them.
links for the NJSBA website, because it goes through NJSBA, right?
Right, yeah, so the NJSBA, yeah, so Mrs. Pappalardo sent out the email for all of you.
We just need to fill that out prior to, so that then we just go over the results the night of.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, and then we will need to schedule a time with Dr. Preston after that, and he'll complete his self-review to review that information with him.
Oh, because
So-
just we go over that, I'm trying to
We
remember. that
create like a master copy that comes from the entire board.
Right.
And then we need to make sure that it is logged for CUSAC and presented to Dr. Preston prior to, it needs to be on in our meeting minutes prior to end of year.
Got it. Okay.
June 30th.
2:30 is fine, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're cutting it a little closer than we like.
We got it.
Yeah.
We got it.
So, all right, is that
3
good for
points.
everyone?
Mhm.
So we've,
So
Mr.
6
Miles?
o'clock on the 21st.
Got
Yes,
it. Got
perfect.
it.
So we'll re-advertise that meeting, and like I said, we'll go into executive session first, just as a board, and we won't need anyone else here at 6. We can open it, take notes and all that jazz, and we'll just reconvene at 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
And if we need to, go into a second executive session for any relevant issues. Okay, all right.
May 21st.
All right, so everybody's good on that. We have the list. Sorry, I'm just looking through to make sure. I had a far longer report, but I saved you all a lot of the fun from the finance committee. Okay, and superintendent's report, or do you
Yes,
want to do student?
no, I could do them both.
Okay.
My report's fairly brief. We had one reported HIB, one confirmed HIB. We completed all statutory drills. They're on that report, on the report that you can see online as well. I did meet with Becca and Aubrey, our student reps to the board. They are in Florida enjoying themselves, so they did send me a report for They got to Memorial and PES, but then they were packing, and it was a last-minute meeting that we had right after spring
We
break.
should
But
zoom them in,
yeah,
too.
we should zoom them in.
They should stop senior trip, come on
Probably
now.
eating dinner, right?
Yeah.
Memorial, they wrote, HSA and staff held a book fair for all students who were interested in buying books. Students participated in the Kids Heart Challenge led by Nurse Fields to learn more about heart health and how they can stay healthy. The school hosted its VIP breakfast. That was great, actually, in which students could bring their own VIPs to enjoy breakfast at the school and share what they've been up to. It was great to see a lot of people out there at that. At PES, the school celebrated Administrative Professionals Day and recognized Mrs. McElvain, Mrs. Heil, and Mrs. Carr. And then, of course, students had the opportunity that we had a really large turnout for Take Your Child to Work Day. It seemed like every staff member that had children did bring them out, and it was a great environment. I brought my own kids, and they kind of fell in love with Pitman too. So, Dad, can we come to Pitman? So, I don't know if my wife will allow it, but yeah, it's in the car. It might be in the cards, but it was a fun day. So that was their report. I also want to. I did host yesterday the Gloucester County Climate and Culture Consortium, which I'm just a participant in that. That's a new committee that's been formed among the county that's led by county officials. One of the big pushes was a month ago. The county runs we'll call it a student roundtable, teen summit they call it, and we had about 15 students attend that from Pitman. Where they discuss pertinent issues, anything from mental health to academics to collegiate admissions. But the students run it, and it's completely student-run. The thrust is to get more student voice out and about. How do we push that into the school, into the school, or model it at the school-based level? And it's just kind of, I guess you can call it a think tank of sorts. And it's great. Mr. McAfee attended the Teen Summit on Pitman's behalf with the 15 students as well. So I did host that yesterday. Our central office construction has begun, sort of. It's getting there. Any day now. I mean, there's some people coming out with permits and from the town permitting office, and so we're excited to get started on that. We did find out from last meeting to this meeting. I'll talk about it a little bit in the budget presentation that the Elk School District lease is ending. And so we will have that annex free at the Wall School. Once we move the central office down to the old library and computer room, we'll have an opportunity to contract with a broker, perhaps get some other tenants in that building and realize those revenue streams again. But we do have some challenges right now. I'll discuss that in the budget presentation. That's all I have for my report.
So any government agency, right? Any educational agency,
Right.
any nonprofit could potentially
we could
rent that
potentially
space.
rent that space,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, that's great.
We had some interest too from school districts in particular.
Okay.
Well, actually, I should say some, even educational service providers as well. So
Okay.
we could reach out to them as well. We have some avenues.
Okay, that's great. Okay. All right, great. So that is going to bring us to our budget presentation. It's you and Mr. Miles, right?
So Mr. Miles tells me that this is the one meeting of the year where technically I'm not presenting to the board solely. I'm presenting also to the public, right? And so I get to we kind of positioned ourselves over here because we're presenting to the public, even though we're really doing this every single time. We feel that way, but really this time we're presenting to everyone, the board and the public. So welcome to our budget presentation. The last presentation we did was the tentative budget. This was the one that is submitted to the county for final approval. So we're going to take you through this. I'll kind of discuss some of the, really the design of the budget, the goals of district leadership, our involvement with PEA. We tried to be very transparent at every twist and turn. When we had challenges presented about 3 weeks ago when we found out Elk lease was ending. We'll take you through that. And then Mr. Miles is going to present some of the more technicalities present in the budget as well. All right. Joe, am I doing a good job talking into the mic? Okay. All right. Really, also, I want to say, despite the fact that this is a statutory requirement to present this, all districts across the state have to do this either tonight or this week prior to May 7th, I believe. You know I can speak on behalf of the board as well in saying that we really view this as an opportunity to continue our pursuit of open, transparent, honest communication. You know, it's kind of just something we constantly talk about, you know, in private. Anytime we see each other, it's, hey, let's get this information out. And it's a constant question in my leadership team. Are we getting this information out to people? I like to think that, you know, sometimes the lack of emails that I'm getting from people asking clarifying questions is a good sign. I have my monthly superintendent brief. It's called a brief because I'm briefing the community on what took place at the board meeting. Not everybody can get here. And so that, again, another thrust there is just open communication. People want information, even if it's bad. And that's really something that I know was started before my arrival here, and I applaud the board on that. Certainly a selling point for me in even coming to Pitman a year ago. All right, so let's dig into really what district leaders, our board, really wanted to do with this budget, and kind of in a really large collaboration. So we really have boiled down to three budget goals. We want to maintain the highest quality services possible and continue to offer and enhance our existing programs to students. So about 70% of our budget is allocated to personnel. So again, we keep that in mind. We deal with a lot of human capital. So keeping in mind rising healthcare, salary, tuition costs in the most fiscally responsible way was a crucial part of our budgeting process. A word we use often in our team meetings with staff, with district leaders, board leadership is efficiency. My wife always she likes to throw around the fact that she's Lean Six Sigma certified. Some people might know what that is, particularly if you have an engineer, some government officials. But really getting lean and efficient in processes, eliminating variations, eliminating redundancies, creating processes was really part of this and what helped us to achieve a balanced budget. Certainly want to commend Mr. Miles, the business office. We're pretty lean, but we got this done in short order. So really something that's a goal of ours is to do that. We did have some challenges, right? Effects of consolidation from a couple years ago. I really want to take a second too I know he's not here, but I do keep in touch with him. I actually have been coaching golf with Mr. Crispin. But really hats off to Mr. Crispin, my predecessors, his entire team. I know, Joe, your mom was part of this, but some really difficult decisions that I didn't even have to make that I've been the beneficiary of moving forward. I can't take credit for really that we're in this position. You know, it was really some tough decisions the board made that in hindsight were actually really good. And you probably at the time when you made them were thinking, I don't know, this seems desperate and drastic. We're kind of at the point now where we might, some of the challenges we might face is where our enrollment's climbing. I'm getting the questions now, well, what do we do now? Our kindergarten class, Mr. Caltabiano, and I were talking about this morning, approaching 100 kids. What do we do? Now we're going up. And that's a good problem to have. And so, you know, I'll talk a little bit about that. But I do want to thank my predecessors and the teams that came before me. Like I said, the Elk lease is ending, so another challenge, some news that we received. I know she's not here tonight, but our newly appointed junior-senior high school principal, I said, what are we gonna do now, right when that happened? And she said, I want to give you a book. And it's by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. I highly recommend it. During spring break, that one Monday we were off, well, we were dealing with other issues, but while we were dealing with the issues, I was reading The Obstacle is the Way, and it's really good, and it's the idea that let's look at challenges instead of challenges, look at them as opportunities, and that's how really big corporations got built. You know, that's how Bill Gates built Microsoft, that's how Jeff Bezos built Amazon, and look, that's not what we're doing here. We're not a for-profit enterprise, but let's look at these obstacles as opportunities, and how can we turn that into an opportunity? I started to allude to it. Hey, Delsey is no longer wanting this lease, but perhaps we can get, once we get into the new central offices, we have a whole building that we can advertise to a potential new tenant, and it might be more attractive. And perhaps I like to be a glass half full kind of guy. Perhaps our revenues are even increased, and we're talking about what we can just add constantly here and really building back. And so we're excited about the future, even despite the challenges. Certainly the passage of the referendum, I continually need to thank this community. The fact that it passed 2-1 on a cold January day was really really a testament to this community, its faith in the schools, and certainly really thrilled there. This district is, it's really promising signs. Another promising signs we have, and she's not here tonight, but I just talked to Ms. Stewart. I believe we have only 6 students going to GCIT from 8th grade into 9th grade, so just a handful of students going there. So those efforts, certainly, teachers are in our midst tonight. That's a collective group effort, to really kind of promote and market. One of the first things they said, and Mr. Caltabiano and I, in the first staff meeting, we just kind of listened. We were here at the high school with the junior, senior high staff, and they said, people just need to know what we're doing here because it's great. And so we said, all right, well, let's just get some marketers in here. Let's help market this. And it was kind of low hanging fruit. And so we were excited to do that. And it's certainly the fruits of your labor that I think in those metrics for sure. A couple things I want to talk about in investments in education. This is what we're here for. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves. We get lost in sometimes, broader politics. We get sometimes lost in, the nitty gritty, the operating aspects of the building. But really, one of the first things Mr. Miles said, I think at the beginning of the year to the teaching staff, and Mr. Miles was a former superintendent, was, really the most important thing is what the teacher that's in front of your students, right? And the experience your students are getting on a daily basis. And that's really top of mind for us. And so really wanted to just have a slide up here in how the budget supports the strategic plan that the board set out, the goals that we have as a collective. One, we have no cuts to any programs. Matter of fact, enhancements to many. Very minimal impacts to staff. Maybe so minimal such that the staff members that were they saw on the board agenda tonight all the renewals and all that, they were like, well, why are we being talked about tonight? I said, well, this is just standard course of action, but there's no impact, you're good. And so I think there's that collective relief that we see among staff, which is great. Again, just a sigh of relief for everybody, which is great. But we are poised to really enhance our educational opportunities in a lot of ways. We were able to add a full-time position of VP athletic director. We're in the process of interviewing candidates right now. A full-time VP and director of student services. Same thing there. They'll be on the May Board of Education agenda for approval. We anticipate that, so we're excited about that as well. So certainly some enhancements there. We added yet another preschool classroom. Again, some creativity from Mr. Miles and Mr. Caltabiano and teachers and Miss Miller down at Memorial. That's one of the reasons we moved out of Memorial. I think that was my second week on the job. We just packed up shop and got evicted, right? But it was great. It was again, what is best for students and what is best for this community, and that's kind of our motto. So this will account for another 15 students. Previously, we had a wait list. That will no longer be the case, so I'm happy to report that as well. We'll be purchasing a new math program at the high school, an effort led by Mr. Caltabiano, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I want to thank our new IT staff, our new IT supervisors. We now also have a new Chromebook replenishment cycle. Security enhancements, I mean, it's just as much of an investment in education. A security investment that will begin this summer will be a much-needed security vestibule at PES this summer. And lastly, we continue to make curriculum enhancements to our 3 high school academies. Teachers there have been on fire and seem to keep getting grants, attracting students, and thinking innovatively. We'll continue our efforts to market these wonderful programs to both Pitman families and non-resident tuition students, the latter of which continue to grow. And so we're really excited about the future, and I'll let Mr. Miles talk about the more exciting parts of the budget.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was the more exciting part. But all right, so I'm going to get into just some of the particularities, I think that's a word, of the budget. So this is something that I enjoy. I'm going to try to hopefully make it enjoyable for you, but I'll briefly go through it. So we did have some budget challenges. One of the things that really, I believe, helped us is we intentionally implemented what's called zero-based budgeting. So what that means is instead of just looking at an expenditure line in this current budget and saying, oh, well, this was budgeted at $100,000, let's just add 2% to it, we actually went through each line. We have more than 400 expenditure lines, and we did a diagnosis on all those lines and looked at the past expenditures and tried to best project what was needed. Some lines needed more than we thought, than we originally anticipated. Some lines needed much less. So it really allowed us to get down to the nitty-gritty. If there's any fat, not that there was much, but in any budget you can find little pockets. If there was any fat, we cut that out. We believe we did that, but we also, like we've said, we don't want to cut into the muscle. So we preserved the muscle, but really tried to, through zero-based budgeting, budget every line exactly where it should be. We had to address the loss of approximately $340,000 in stabilization aid. That was a one-time gift, you could call it, from the state in this year's budget, but that is gone. Now, we did see an approximate $180,000 increase in the other state aid categories, but that's aside from this loss. So really, it's an overall net loss of approximately $150,000 to $160,000. That's something that we needed to address. We really are trying to rely less on our reserves and our fund balance. Those are essentially, you can think of them in layman's terms as savings accounts. So for the current budget, when I say current, I'm saying 24-25, where we're currently living in this budget, we brought into this budget approximately $170,000 from our maintenance reserve to close the budget, and we brought in approximately $1.2 million from fund balance, and that helped close the budget. So for next year's budget, which we're discussing now, we brought in less in both of those categories, which was a hard thing to do because it represents another hole. Because if you bring in less from your savings, then you have to fill that gap. But we believe that's a prudent thing to do, to rely less and less on those accounts because they're not recurring every year. They will come to an end eventually if you don't take your foot off the gas and replenish. So that's something that we think is setting us up for success in the future. We also have 5 schools, in case you didn't notice. And some of those schools are 100 years old. And one of the things we really wanted to do was address maintenance needs. The referendum is a great way to do that. It's really helping us on very, very necessary projects. But aside from the referendum, in the yearly budget, we increased our maintenance expenditure allocation. So next year, we're proposing to go up about $60,000. That is needed, and it's going to allow us to get kind of ahead of the 8 ball, if that's a phrase, not behind the 8 ball, but be more proactive and not reactive. And Mr. Morris has been great, and we've worked together on that. Okay, we really tried to maximize the preschool expansion aid. This really helped our budget. We received an additional $400,000. I have all these categories going, and I apologize, but our preschool expansion aid is essentially a grant. It's separate from our general fund. It went up. We received $400,000 more for next year than we currently have this year. So we were really creative in using those funds. They must be utilized for the preschool program. We can't take the money and invest it here at the junior, senior high school. But there are ways to be creative, to creatively, even though it's still allowable, creatively move expenditures from the general fund into that grant, which then gives relief to our operating budget, to our general fund. Okay, we did the same thing with food services. I'm happy to report we're making money in our food services account. Our cafeterias are profitable. That's great. But we want to reinvest that back into our cafeteria and creatively move expenditures from our operating budget into our food services budget. We did that as well. All right, and then lastly, another specific is we did go to cap. What that means is increasing the local tax levy to 2%. We were very mindful, we really try to be mindful of, balancing both. We want to preserve all programs. We want to give our kids the best education possible, but also be responsible to the taxpayer. So we did go to the 2% cap based on some of those losses I already spoke about. And we did avail ourselves to a healthcare adjustment which allows us to go another 1.29% above that, in addition to the 2%, for a total local tax levy increase of 3.29%. Now that's not the same as the tax impact. I'll get to that at the last slide. We were allowed to take a greater healthcare adjustment, which would have further increased the local tax levy. We didn't take that entire adjustment because, again, we wanted to be responsible in our use of funds. Our health benefits went up a little shy of 11%. It's actually in the agenda today. It was a huge hit. So this did help us close the gap, but just so everybody knows, we didn't take the whole thing because we wanted to really kind of walk that tightrope there and keep both considerations in mind. Okay, why did we go to 2% and then take that healthcare adjustment? We have a revenue imbalance. This is really what we're dealing with. And this chart, I think, really shows that picture. So the two main revenue streams that we have are our state aid and our local tax levy. There are other miscellaneous revenues that we receive. You know, rental income, admissions at sporting events, interest income, but it's really kind of minor and small compared to these two main revenue streams. So in 22-23, Pitman schools received about $7.1 million from the state, and the local tax levy was just above $15 million. And you can see the percentages. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio, 1/3, 2/3. The next year, you can see that the state aid, and this is what Mr. Crispin and Mrs. Rose were really dealing with, the decisions they made have helped us today. Because you can see that precipitous drop-off in the state aid of about $1.5 million. And then the local tax levy doesn't make that up. It can't make it up. And so the total budget decreases from $22.3 million to about $21.3, about $1 million. And now you're getting closer to not 2-to-1, but really 3-to-1. You're getting almost like a 25% to 75% ratio. In our current budget now, 24-25, that's exactly where we are. So you can see how it's the state is stepping away from Pitman, and the onus is more and more on the local tax levy and the local taxpayer specifically. For next year, where we are, it slowed a little bit, thankfully, but you can see that our state aid goes down about $150,000, which I spoke about, and then our local tax levy goes up about $500,000, and we're seeing an overall increase of about $300,000 to $400,000, if that is clear and if that makes sense. So that's a challenge that we had. We just want to be very transparent with that because the revenue imbalance, the shift is happening from the state to Pitman. Okay. One other thing I'll just show, and then I have one more slide after this. I promise I'll be brief. We are really trying to manage the spending. So this slide gives an idea of basically how the money is allocated among the general fund. That's just our operating budget. The special line, that's just grants. That's all that means. It's the special funds or grant fund, and then our debt service fund. So in 22-23, the total budget was $28 million, and you can see the breakdown. In 23-24, when we had that big drop-off in state aid, things needed to adjust, and you can see in the operating budget, the general fund, there was a big drop-off. Just to let you know, too, one of the reasons the special fund is so high is because that was a lot of the American Relief Plan, American Rescue Plan, ESSER funds in 22-23 and also 23-24, and it's also our preschool expansion aid is in that special line. Okay, the current budget, as you can see, it's pretty consistent from 23-24 to now. It went up a little bit. For next year, the proposal, and I'm going to explain this because you might look at this and think, well, wait, that goes down, and it does. As you can see, the overall budget is actually, even with the tax increase, our budget is tighter next year. We really trimmed as much as we could and tried to preserve everything we could at the same time. It's actually overall, if you look at the operating budget, it's an exact decrease of $745,830. It's a little deceiving because almost all of that 745 is because in our current budget, we brought about that amount in from our capital reserve for one-time projects. So that's a one-time project. It really doesn't, it's not recurring. So when you remove that capital reserve amount that was brought into this year's budget, we're about at the same total budget next year as we are this year. Hopefully that makes sense, but I'm just wanting to let everybody know that we're trying our best to be prudent, to be mindful of the taxpayer, and also to fulfill our duty to our students and our staff. That's what we're really trying to do. All right. The last slide I have here is the preliminary tax impact. So you can see for Pitman homes, we have the assessed value on the left. I highlighted the average assessed home in Pitman. I want to just say that's an assessed value, not actual value. Usually that's well below the market value. But the average assessed home in Pitman is $239,000. And with the budget for next year, the monthly, and again, this is preliminary, but the monthly tax impact on the average assessed home would be just shy of $8 a month. And that won't be finalized for a few more months when home values are finalized, but that's what could be expected, is what I'm trying to say. And then last but certainly not least, I just want to thank everybody. If there's any public comment, we'll certainly hear that at this time. But I put these pictures up here because this is why we're here. This is why we do what we do. Schools are not built for adults, for business administrators to have jobs, even though that's a wonderful thing. They're built for the kids, and that's why we're here, to serve our students. And so at the end of the day, we're talking numbers, but they have an impact, and those students are the ones impacted. So thank you.
Do you want to open the floor if there's any public comment?
Yes.
Okay. If there's anybody who would like to participate in a public comment on the budget, please go to the podium located to my right. State your name, municipality, residence, group affiliation, if applicable, clearly into the microphone. And we will do our best to have Mr. Miles and Dr. Preston answer your questions. Okay. Seeing none, any questions from the board?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes,
You
thank
did
you
that
very much.
good.
That was very clear.
I feel like we've had a lot of opportunity to digest the
Yeah.
information and sort of present
Thanks
it
for
very
your
clearly.
involvement.
Yeah, certainly.
Team effort.
Dream team. All right, well then I am gonna take it to, so we need to move a motion.
Yeah, we have to vote on this separately.
Right,
One
okay.
item on the first item there.
Okay, so if I could move item 1.
This would be item 3.
I'm sorry, pardon, items 1 through 3?
It really could just be 3.
item
It's a
number
little,
3.
it's a little confusing the way that is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I could make a motion to approve the following resolution as written under the public hearing on budget. Have a second?
Papalardo.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Miles, please call the vote.
Yes. Mrs. Bolton.
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Higby-Iono.
Yes.
Mr. Grossman.
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, Finance and Facilities, I'll turn it over to our chairman, Mr. Grossman.
I wasn't ready for that. Got my password. Finance and Facilities Committee met on April 23rd at 3:30 PM. In attendance were myself, Board of Education members Mrs. Higby-Iono and Mrs. Miller, Superintendent Dr. Robert Preston, and Business Administrator Mr. Robert Miles. We discussed the corrective action plan regarding the surplus of food service account funds, which can only be used to support the food service program. This surplus was identified in 2023, partially due to the pandemic funding for meals. The district will be using the funds for a new refrigerator for Memorial's growing population, a new service line at the Pitman High School, and for food service employees' salaries. We discussed the ongoing bills that we are waiting for. The ongoing, wow, that's why
Did I
I pushed,
type-
that's
did I
why I
have a
pushed the
typo?
computer away. No.
Oh.
I don't want to admit I get old and need reading glasses. We discussed the corrective action. No, I'm in the wrong spot. We discussed the ongoing bids that we are waiting for and the existing bids for both the referendum projects, such as the partial roof replacement and parking lot and track drainage, as well as current facility needs, such as the Pitman Elementary School security vestibule and administration offices necessary at Wall School. Capital reserve funds will be used to pay some of the vendors that have submitted invoices, and upon receipt of the bond sale funds, we will replenish the capital reserve funds. This ensures our vendors are paid in a timely manner. We discussed the Pitman Police Department's ongoing support for our district and wanted to say thank you to Chief McAteer. The Pitman Police Department and the Pitman Public School District's partnership is an exceptional example of municipal and school districts working together to ensure the safety and security of students, staff, and community members. With that, I move to approve items 1 through 22 as written for approval. Can I get a second?
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Miles, please call the vote.
All right. Mrs. Bolton,
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Higby Iono,
Yes.
Mr. Grossman,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Okay, curriculum instruction, I'm gonna turn it over to our committee chairwoman, Mrs. Bolton. All right, computer's gonna die, so let's see.
All right, the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on April 23rd at 4:30 PM. The meeting was less than an hour. It was a pretty light month. In attendance were Dr. Preston, Mr. Caltabiano, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Pote, and myself. We discussed some of the items on the agenda tonight. Number 7 is the comprehensive equity plan, which Mr. Caltabiano headed up. He informed us of the professional development that staff will be attended by Inspired Instruction. You'll see that on there too. Number 9 and 10 on the agenda show how we will be using the leftover Title I funding to hold a summer program for students grade 1 through 7 over the summer. We are still working out the details on that as far as teachers' availability and just getting some feedback on things, but we are very excited to be able to host some summer tutoring for those kids over the summer to kind of give them a little push over the summer months, and we think it'll be great. So stay tuned for details for that. And that was it. With that, I'll make a motion to approve items 2 through 38 as written.
And a second?
Second vote?
Okay, and if I can turn it over briefly to
Yeah,
Dr. Preston?
I just want to, it's kind of a bittersweet moment for sure, but I just wanted to draw everybody's attention to items 17 and 22. Mr. Miles, we're accepting his resignation tonight. I want to thank Rob for his time. It's been brief, but it's been a lot of fun. Mr. Miles has accepted a position in Clearview Public School District, and Clearview Regional, I should say, and just really appreciate everything you've done here. I know the board would echo that. Also want to introduce Mr. DeStratis, Rob's replacement. Certainly, that's the sweet part of the moment. Mr. Stratus is currently business administrator in Penns Grove, Carneys Point. He brings a ton of experience, a former president of Gloucester County Business Administrators Roundtable Association. Rob describes him as a tactician, and so we're really excited to bring him on board. He has worked in previous districts. He's been in school finance for 19 years, but he's worked also as a business administrator in Swedesboro, Woolwich for 6 years. So really excited. So yeah, thanks. Welcome. We're excited to have you. Mr. Stratus will be starting July 1. Rob will be done June 30th, so we have plenty of time to ensure a smooth transition. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mrs. Bolt, you moved items 2 through, right? Okay.
Yep,
Okay, sorry.
no one
All right.
seconded me.
Pardon?
I did, I seconded.
Oh, you did?
did
Oh,
second.
yeah, we
Okay.
did. Oh, any discussions, that's where we ended.
That's what we
Okay.
ended at. Okay, Mr. Miles, please call the roll.
Right. Mrs. Bolton,
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Higby Iono,
I have to abstain from number 27, but yes to all others.
okay. Number 27, that's noted. Mr. Grossman,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
I abstain from number 37, yes to the rest.
Okay, 37, and motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, it's going to take us to our Communication and Policy Committee. I'm going to turn it over to our committee chairwoman, Ms. Higby Iono.
The Communication and Policy Committee met on April 23rd at 5:30 PM. In attendance were Mrs. Papalardo, Mrs. Farrell, Dr. Preston, and myself. The policies that were discussed and approved for our first reading last month are on the agenda to be adopted this month. And the committee also discussed possible revisions needed to other policies, but we will have
We'll have
more
one
on that later.
Yeah, yeah.
And with that, I move to adopt item number 1 as written.
You have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Rouse, please call the vote.
Right. Mrs. Bolton,
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Higby Iono,
Yes.
Mr. Grossman,
Yes.
Mrs. Papalardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, that's going to take us to our third public hearing. To be recognized to participate in public comment, please stand at the podium located to my right, speak clearly into the microphone, and state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, is there any old business? Any new business? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Papalardo.
May I have a second?
Second, Bolton.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for May 21st. The board will meet in executive session for a personal matter at 6 p.m. and go into our generalized executive session at 7 p.m. with public session starting at 7:30. Thank you. John, you'll tell Dan we made it.